Hello, everybody. Thank you for sticking around after Table Takes. This is the new release rundown. We are joined by Mark from Mox Boarding House again.
Hello there.
Before we begin, do you want to say anything about yourself or about Mox, especially considering the circumstances right now?
Sure, yeah. So Mox Boarding House, of course, premier game store with all sorts of lovely games that you can hang out and check out. Unfortunately, due to the circumstances, we're not doing any events anymore, at least for the time being. But that doesn't mean that our retail space is not open. We're still, of course, rocking and rolling. So if you need to pick up miniatures, paints, or new games or anything like that, we got you.
Something to occupy yourself during the self-isolation?
Yes. Yeah, if you want to catch up on all those Warhammer minis that you've been meaning to paint, we can try and help you out with that.
And folks can call ahead and then just go pick up the game and leave to minimize contact.
Yes, yeah. Our retail space, we've kind of removed a lot of the chairs. We've made it so everything's kind of at least 6 feet apart. So we are trying to do what we can to keep everybody safe and healthy.
And the restaurants at both locations are currently closed.
Currently shut down for the time being.
And I think you're operating on somewhat limited hours.
As far as I know, we're doing normal hours, but I think we might be closing early. Those news is kind of coming out as we go. So.
Great. Well, so on that note, if you want to head over to Mox, make sure to go to your Facebook or Twitter or whatever to confirm the current situation.
Sure, yeah. So, but as it stands, we're trying to keep retail open so we can provide games for all these people who are stuck inside and all sorts of fun manuals and things to read to kind of pass the time.
Is there a game that you are personally playing to occupy your time?
Right now, I'm trying to catch up on all my Marvel Crisis Protocol minis.
Okay.
I've been keeping up with all that. They just came out with the new Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. So they got Star-Lord, Groot, Rocket Raccoon are the new characters that just came out.
Which X-Men are out so far? Because that's really the important question.
No X-Men as of yet.
What?
So they are Atomic Mass Games, who's taking care of this. They've done a very good job of dodging that X-Men question. They haven't confirmed or denied.
The beating emotional heart of the Marvel universe?
I know. That's what I'm probably most excited for, but we've got no word so far if we're going to be getting that yes or no. So maybe down the line.
I think my only interaction with like Marvel miniatures was I played like one game of HeroClix with a Marvel team, and like the abilities everybody had meant that the most sense for me to do was to have Wolverine hide in a mailbox, while I think Storm carried, or Archangel somebody carried Professor X around in the sky while he mind controlled the other team.
I mean, that's a pretty strong strat.
Cool. All right. Good. So,
but yeah, hopefully X-Men soon. But we'll have to wait and hear.
So who are you in building?
Right now, I've been taking care of a lot of the Asgardians. So I'm finishing up Thor. I have Valkyrie. I'm also working on Winter Soldier.
Do they have Heimdall in that?
Not yet.
Okay.
But yeah, they're going to have all sorts of stuff. They've been pumping out characters left and right for this game. So I would not be too surprised if we're going to see a lot of those characters coming out sooner rather than later.
Okay. So you brought a couple new games. What do you want to tackle first? Because same as last time, we will kind of pick something. We can go through it. What you're most excited about. I think they will then run a poll to let viewers kind of decide what they want to cover next. But what are you jazzed about?
I like Sanctum, so I think we'll jump on that first off.
Okay.
So this is a lot of fun. If you've played games like Diablo or Divinity Original Sin, those kind of things.
And who hasn't?
Well, of course. This is going to be a lot of that boiled down into a board game form. So you're going to have a choice of 4 different characters that you'll be able to play with some pretty cool little minis. Comes with some really nice dice that are all black with like little metallic pips on them. You'll have a bunch of skill cards on your character board. And this game's kind of unique because you're going to essentially just be leveling up your character for a majority of the game until you get to the very end where you're going to have a big boss fight at the very end.
So is it cooperative?
Yes.
Okay.
So everyone's working together, everyone's trying to level up. As you move down the board, you're going to generate monsters for you to fight. As you defeat the monsters, you're going to be able to move little gems and little tokens up along your skill cards. Once you've cleared off all the tokens on a skill card, you'll be able to unlock that ability on your character. So there's a little bit of strategy on how you want to go about moving your tokens, because once you move them onto a new card, it's going to be harder to unlock that card later on. So you'll have these boards that you'll lay out. Very simple. I want to say it's like a dungeon crawler, but of course, as you can see from the board, you don't really have a lot of freedom of movement. You're just kind of moving down a track, and it'll let you know.
And then it looks like these are the
Those are going to be your character boards.
Character board.
So that will have all of your kind of character there where you can put all your equipment cards. Over in this section here is going to be where your skill cards are. You'll lay those out, and that's where you're going to have these little tokens on there, and you'll be able to kind of track how much progress you're making on unlocking those skills.
Looks like they did that neat thing that we were talking about. I don't know if you were here, but a number of the games that we've been looking at recently have like alternate art or full art or just kind of pretty sides.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah, it's nice to take advantage of it, especially if you have really good artists doing cool work. I mean, you might as well print it on everything you can.
Now I don't see like a grid battle map.
No.
So is this
those little boards right here is actually going to be your little track. So there's a couple different acts. Depending on how many players you have, you'll set out these boards, and then you'll just move along the circles. And on each circle, you'll have a little symbol, and it'll tell you what kind of monster cards you're going to generate.
I have a feeling that maybe this is the boss fight.
Yeah, that's going to be the gate to unlock the boss fight, and then of course you have the big baddie themselves. Boss fight's really interesting because you're basically going to be playing against, like, everyone's going to be working together to play against this monster. The monster will have like its own deck of cards, so the mechanic doesn't really change dramatically once you move into the boss fight mode. Because the whole time you're just going to be rolling dice, try to match the dice on the monster cards to defeat the monsters.
Okay.
Once you get to the boss fight, each person is basically just going to be dealt out a bunch of little monsters that are basically collectively make up the big baddie at the end.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty fast-paced for the most part.
So it seems like the mechanics themselves are like dice rolling and resource management kind of character progression?
Yes. Yeah, with the focus on the leveling up, because you're going to want to level up to fight that big baddie at the end.
Well, so it seems like all the focus is, on building your character. Because there is no combat grid, it's not a move around tactical game by any means.
No, it's more of just kind of like cooperatively working, being like, okay, I'm going to level up these aspects of my character, you're going to level up that. That way, when we get to the end, we'll be able to kind of combine our powers together.
So how does a game like this compare to like Gloomhaven or whatnot? Because it doesn't seem like this is going to be as heavy into story.
No. So it pulls a lot of that like extra story and narrative stuff out of it.
Okay.
I mean, it's still present. I mean, they still set up a nice little universe here. But it's more of a board game. It's definitely like a Gloomhaven light.
Okay.
So if you like the idea of Gloomhaven, but you don't want to have the setup,
or maybe it was just a little too intimidating.
Yes, this is a nice way to kind of get that flavor, but you don't have to deal with all the extra doodads that go with Gloomhaven.
Okay. What other games would this be like? Like, isn't there like role player and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's a couple games like that that are in the similar vein. So yeah, role player is a good one.
What's the one that has the dice that you put in the neoprene mats?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I know
but I
which
can't remember
one,
the name of it now.
No, I can't for the life of me think of it right now.
Well, the basic. There's almost a whole genre, it seems like, or at least the past couple of years, not as much recently.
Yeah.
But the couple of years prior, there seemed like an explosion of, I want to build a fantasy RPG character, but I don't necessarily want to sit down and play an RPG.
Yeah.
And this seems really solidly in that category.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And you have the 4 different characters, but like I said, because you have those skill cards and how you manipulate and move those tokens around on the skill cards, you're not gonna be able to unlock all your abilities. So you're gonna kind of pick what kind of loadout and what type of character you want to. You can kind of
so it looks like we have the Huntress, which is kind of very rangery.
Yep.
We have the Outlaw, which I guess is this one, who has kind of a neat like hooked sword.
It's kind of a rogue, kind of in that department. You kind of play it.
But his face and his feather made me think that he was a little more Renaissance-y.
Yeah, a little bit. It does have that kind of.
But not a fencer. He's got a really kind of wicked hooked claw. And then we have the Slayer, who's a barbarian. Yep. And we have the Dancer, who is a spear wielder.
Yeah, it's also kind of a magician as well. So kind of like a battle mage almost. So you can kind of lean a little bit more towards magic or a little bit more towards.
And it doesn't seem like these are not like traditional fighter, wizard, cleric kind of classes. They're a little more flavorful.
Yes, they're a little more flavorful, and they're a little broader because, like I said, with the skill cards, you're going to be able to kind of define as you play like exactly what this character is going to be like.
Okay.
So it's kind of nice. Yeah.
Any other games you feel select?
No, again, I'd like to say it's just mainly like kind of like Gloomhaven, but with a lot of the extra bits stripped down. So if you like those kind of dungeon crawler games, but you maybe don't want to have to deal with all of the setup, this is a really great way to kind of get around that.
Okay. And fully cooperative, you said.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's no Well, there's no real like traitor or anything like that. On the spite-o-meter.
Yeah,
you think
very
this will
little
be
to
pretty
no
low?
spite.
Okay.
Yeah, because again, you're really just trying to work together so you can build each other up, so that you're prepared.
So you
to
can take each other down.
Yeah, well, so you can try and defeat the boss, which is not an easy task. So there's a very high likelihood that your entire party will get wiped out at the very end of this game. And in which case, whoever did the most damage to the boss ends up becoming the victor.
Am I the only one who tries to check to make sure that I put the box lid back on?
You are
in the right
not. I
order?
do that all the time as well. Because for some reason, it annoys me when the top and the bottom are upside down for each other.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not right.
Yeah, just one of those little things.
That is Sanctum. If you want to mess around with an RPG character but not have an RPG, good shot.
Yep.
So it looks like, shockingly, can you predict what game chat wanted to see next?
Probably Villainous.
You are correct,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah,
you win the opportunity to tell me about Villainous.
Yeah, sounds good. So Villainous, of course, another addition to the Villainous series. If you played the other ones, this is a little bit more of the same, except for we're going to get 3 new villains. You get.
So this is 3. Didn't I thought all the previous expansions were 2? Am I incorrect?
Usually, yes.
Okay.
So this one's got 3. You get Pete, which is a super classic, fun old Disney villain. You'll recognize him from Steamboat Willie or a lot of the old cartoons. Yeah, he's in here. The fun thing about him is they actually have all of his cards and all of his pieces and everything are all in black and white, just to kind of represent.
You can see some of that there.
Yeah, you just to kind of represent that old nostalgia.
It's one of those things that like. You're like, hey, everything's in black and white, and you're like, yeah, whatever, that's fine. I see a lot of black and white art. But I think it's when you contrast it against the colorfulness of the rest of the characters, it does really kind of leap out in a very stark way.
Yes, yeah, it definitely stands out. You're going to notice when somebody's playing Pete, if everyone's rocking some Villainous. Along with that, of course, you're going to have Cruella de Vil.
Who is classic and one of the best Disney villains.
Yes, there's been a lot of people who've been waiting for this character for a very long time, so I'm glad to see that it's out and available for everyone now.
Does she have a deck of a bunch of puppies that you can just like throw in a blender?
Sort of. Really, her mechanic is you're trying to uncover puppy tokens, and then of course capture the puppies.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of her whole flavor. There's going to be a bunch of little tokens. You'll flip them.
She doesn't have 101 cards that she has to go through, right?
No,
Okay.
no. The puppy tokens, they're like 11 or like 22 puppies or something like that. So it adds up pretty quickly. But there's ways for the heroes to like release some of the puppies, or once you've flipped over the puppy token, they might like shuffle them back up.
Sure.
So you have to try and
All
figure
those
out the
meddlesome
high-value
heroes.
ones. Yep. So that's kind of her deal, and then of course you have Mother Gothel from Tangled.
Oh, that's why I have no idea who that is.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And her whole deal is just trying to gain trust points and keep Rapunzel close to her. So on the board, you'll start with a hero, so you'll have Rapunzel
So it's
on.
the emotionally manipulative villain.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
If you want to go that angle, we do have that option now. So Rapunzel will eventually try and move further down the board, and your job is to try and keep her closer to you. And the closer you keep her, the more trust points you'll get, and that's basically how you'll win with her.
Okay. How does Pete win? Do you know?
Pete is really super straightforward. Really he just has some basic goals. He tries to gain a lot of power, use a lot of power in certain areas, and then also just acquire a lot of items.
Okay.
So definitely the most straightforward character out of this box here.
Okay. So, personal question.
Yes.
Which Disney villain in Villainous is your favorite so far?
Ooh, I would have to say Jafar, but that's just because I'm a huge sucker for that Aladdin movie.
Jafar is hard to beat. I will admit that.
No.
Which Disney villain do you most want that's not in Villainous yet?
Ooh, good question. Ooh, there's so many good ones. Let's see. Well, we already have. I can't think of her name from Little Mermaid. Ursula. That would have been like one of my top ones. Outside of that, maybe some of the people from like Great Mouse Detective.
Okay.
Something like that.
Which non-Disney villain, if you could, so if a non-Disney villain were to go into Villainous, who would you want?
Well, I mean, technically it is a Disney villain at this point, but Darth Vader would be fun.
Sure, yeah. My first thought was Zorg from Fifth Element.
Oh yeah, there you go. Oh man, that's such a good character. Such a good one. Yeah, no, that'd be a good choice.
All right. So how many? This is the third or second expansion?
I want to say it's a third.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They have a few out now. This one is you got the 3 characters, so it basically acts as a standalone.
Yeah, I was about to say, like this is an expand-alone where you can just play it by itself if you want.
You can just pick that up if you like those characters and you're just trying to like dive into Villainous and see if you like it. This is a great way to start, especially if you love like 101 Dalmatians and all the classic old cartoons.
Great. All right. What would you like to cover next? And then we'll have one more poll.
Yeah, let's briefly just go over the Star Trek Adventures Sourcebook. So this is for Star Trek Adventures from Modiphius. It's their tabletop RPG. This is a sourcebook to add all of the stuff from the Gamma Quadrant.
Okay, so this is the Deep Space Nine
Yeah,
wormhole?
so a lot of your Deep Space Nine Voyager fans, this is going to be the sourcebook for you. It's going to have all that stuff on the Dominion War. So if you want to have the Dominion War be kind of the backdrop of your setting for your RPG campaign, this is going to be a great resource for you.
So this is a setting sourcebook, though, not adventures.
Not
Despite
adventures.
the name Star Trek Adventures.
Yeah, yes, so Star Trek Adventures is just the name of the game.
Yeah.
And this is going to have just a ton of different stats, information. It comes with like 12 new races that you can play, a bunch of new ships from
Is
not
there
only...
shapeshifter and stuff like that?
Changeling is in this book, so if you want to play Changeling, this is going to be the book you need to get all the
Wait,
stats
does this
for that.
mean that I can finally play a former spy turned tailor?
I think you can. Yeah.
All right, well, I think
so there's
I think
extra
I'm in
life
now.
paths and classes and stuff in here as well, so you'll be able to expand on your game. So if you already play Star Trek Adventures, this is a great addition to that because it's going to give you a ton of
Have
new
you had
stuff
a chance to play it yet?
Not a lot. I do like Modiphius because I've been a huge fan of their Fallout Wasteland Warfare miniatures game.
Okay.
And then the RPG that they kind of converted into it, which was super clever because that was one of those things the community kind of was just doing on their own, and they kind of heard about it and like, yeah, let's go for it, let's do it. So yeah, I really just love Modiphius and everything they're doing. So this is a great game as well.
Great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, how welcoming or easy to get into do you think the Star Trek game is? Like, if somebody has not played RPGs, or someone has just played D&D, do you think that they can jump straight into the Star Trek game pretty easily?
If they're familiar with the Star Trek universe, I would say yes.
Okay.
So fundamentally, it's very similar to like D&D or the Fantasy Flight Star Wars role-playing game. It's pretty approachable. They really do a good job of streamlining how everything's laid out in the book. And it's all really well organized, so it's pretty easy to jump into if you're new to RPGs and you just really want to explore the Star Trek universe.
Because I only played it once, but one of the things that I love Next Generation so much is because so much of the conflict was not violent.
Yeah.
You know, they were philosophical, or there were just challenges that people had to overcome. The brief experience that I had with the Star Trek RPG did show some of that through in the game. You know, it wasn't just fighting.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like make a diplomacy roll. There was a lot of back and forth on challenges and obstacles that didn't involve violence.
Yes. So of course, yeah, Star Trek, it's not necessarily about all the explosions and ships blowing up. It's more about the relationships between people, and this game does put a focus on that and helps integrate that into the gameplay itself. So.
Great.
Yeah, no, it's good RPG if you like Star Trek. It's a great little source book to add to your game.
Awesome.
Yep.
So it looks like Zombie World
Cool.
has been selected as the next game to cover.
Zombie World is a real fun one. So
Is this one open?
This is open.
Right.
We can actually dive into this a little bit. If you want, we can actually kind of set you up with a character because it takes no time at all.
Sure. So this is a card-based tabletop RPG.
Yes.
So
So
it's not a board game.
Not a board game. Definitely like RPG first. It's focused mainly on like narrative play, all that kind of stuff. You'll have some cards to kind of determine your success.
This seems to be like an Apocalypse World RPG.
Yes, it is. So if you're
Wow.
familiar with that, this is going to run just like all those.
Okay.
So you'll start with like your enclave in this base set.
So you need some dice in addition to this.
No.
Okay.
No dice.
Oh, so it's all cards?
All card based. So yeah, you don't have to worry about dice or anything like that. You'll start with your enclave, so you'll pick either a hospital or a prison as kind of your setting. There'll be more settings as well. I know they're going to be doing a mall and then also a farmhouse.
Can you do a hospital prison?
I mean, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, again, like this. There's going to be a GM, so there's going to be somebody who's operating the game and kind of describing things to the players.
Sure.
Coming up with a little bit of scenarios and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so you'll start off with your 2 different settings. You'll kind of pick what kind of advantages you'll have for that.
And this is my character sheet.
That is your character sheet?
The full extent of my character sheet.
That's it, sort of. So when you generate your character, what you'll do is you'll draw from 3 different decks. You'll pick something from your past.
Okay. I pick
That.
ex-convict. See? It's all coming together.
There we go. So you know, it picks one from your trauma. So this is going to be kind of like how you cope with the apocalypse. And these first 2 things are actually kind of hidden identity things. So when you'll generate your character, your past and your trauma, you'll keep face down. And you'll only reveal once you as a player have kind of revealed that to the group.
So you're saying I've already messed up this game?
Well, we're just showing for example. But yeah, generally that would be secret information
I'm
for
an
you.
arrogant ex-convict.
Yeah. And then you would pick 2 present cards, and you would choose between these what your role is in this camp. Like, what are you doing now?
Well, I can go with diplomat or tyrant, but I'm pretty sure that my arrogant ex-convict isn't going to go with tyrant.
Sure. So the tyrant is the thing that people would be able to see. They would be able to see that you're kind of the
like,
ruler of
it'd be like that.
Yes.
Okay.
And with that, you actually end up getting some allies. So to help
I get
generate
a gang.
Yeah, you have
Sweet.
some thugs that you gotta boss around. So there's actually a little population deck which will have NPCs. So we'll just draw out like 4 NPCs, and then they're gonna have stats and stuff like that that kind of help you achieve goals, and they'll tell you what kind of skills they have.
I got a pretty good gang here.
Yeah. So we got
a drug dealer, a martial arts instructor, a bouncer, and a cop.
Yep. So that's a ragtag group of thugs that you have at your disposal. And from that point, yeah, you would also kind of decide what you want for your enclave. So like, let's say for the prison, to set up the enclave, you'll actually pick 2 things out of each category here. So we have scarcities, population, surroundings, and advantages. And this will kind of help the GM and you kind of decide like what's going on around you.
Cool.
So you might decide like, hey, we're really low on medicine and security. And then we also have an armory and an infirmary.
Sure.
So yeah, you would pretty much just set up your characters like this. And then at this point, then you would end up kind of starting your campaign.
So if you said I don't need dice,
Yep.
do we draw cards from a deck?
We do.
'Cause it looks like, so it's neat because these this arrogant and ex-convict thing, there seems to be a mechanic where I can reveal them to get further benefits.
Yes.
Or just rules modifications.
Yes. So once those are revealed, you will get the benefit that's laid out on that card. But if somebody has a motivation to try and maybe take you out or something like that, then they will actually be able to know kind of what your weaknesses are and how to manipulate the game around you. So for determining success, you have what we call the survivor deck. Depending on what your stat is, so you have savagery, soul, steel, and survival. Your stat line is 3, 2, 2, 1. You can mix those up however you want when you're creating your character, but that will tell you how many cards you draw from the survivor deck.
Okay.
So if your stat was 2, you draw 2 survivor cards.
Okay.
You would look at them. These ones say miss, so that means this would be an unsuccessful thing. There's triumph, which is a success. Then you have opportunity, which can be a success, but you have to incur stress to kind of push yourself to make that success. Yeah, from there.
And is that deck shuffled every time?
Yes.
You know?
So every time somebody draws from that, you shuffle it all back up,
Got it.
and you hand it to the next person.
Cool.
Yep.
So I mean, this is definitely one of those games that, like, you say zombie world, considering how often I talk about apocalypse world games, and they're often named, blank world.
Yep.
I was like, I wonder if it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game, but it's a
definitely
board
is.
game, and it turned out that it was.
Yep. Yeah. So this is a really fun alternative to your traditional pen and paper RPGs.
Well, it seems like a really good, very low prep. Let's just take this off the shelf and play a zombie RPG for the evening, kind of thing.
Yeah, so it easily works as like a little one-off thing that you can do in one evening, or you can, of course, kind of string it together, make it like a long-lasting campaign, and just have ongoing characters and stories. It's entirely up to you, but it's super easy. Like, we pretty much just there figured out everything you needed to set up the game.
And these are the full RPG rules.
That's it.
So this seems like I'm not sure that I would hand this to somebody who's never played an RPG before, But I do think that you could get a lot of people who wouldn't normally play an RPG in if the GM was very comfortable running it, basically.
Yes, yeah. So again, you are going to need a GM, so you will need somebody who's kind of comfortable running this kind of setting and all that kind of stuff. But if you have somebody like that, the game kind of almost runs itself. It's really, really simple. You don't have to worry about dice or anything like that. So if probability and dice are your enemy, this is a nice RPG to kind of help you work around that. But yeah, no, it's a ton of fun. I'm excited to try and play this here in the next few months.
So obviously, it is like a lot of other Apocalypse World games, albeit with the difference that it is kind of packaged like a board game, and it has cards instead of dice.
Yep.
But are there any other board games that you would kind of, or I'm sorry, any other role-playing games that you would compare this to that you think are similar kind of in production, packaging, presentation?
Not really. Being kind of a card-driven RPG, it's pretty unique in that regard. Again, like I would kind of fall back on Star Wars RPG by Fantasy Flight. Not really how it plays, but just the narrative focus of it. It's all more about storytelling and talking about that. So it's really kind of fast and loose. Like you don't have to get hung up on like, oh, like all these different skills. Like there's 4 different skills. So you can easily just rock and roll.
Well, it reminds me, we played Spectaculars on game night the other night. And Spectaculars and Dust City Outlaws were both designed by a friend of mine, and they're in that same kind of category of this is not necessarily a year-long campaign kind of game.
Yeah.
It can be, but it's more you want to just take it off the shelf, open it up. It's got a bunch of components to help you get playing very quickly.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a number of kind of indie RPGs that are very pick up and play.
Yeah, there's been a lot of those coming out recently. It seems to be kind of a new thing. I like it. It's great because I love traditional RPGs. I grew up on all that stuff. So it's kind of fun to see alternatives and new ways to kind of bring people into that genre.
There's also the new version of Fiasco that we played 2 weeks ago, I think, 2 weeks ago, and that has become all card based now as well.
Yeah, so there's kind of a new push for card games, so I'm not against it. This is a beautiful marriage between RPG and card game, all in one go.
Cool.
So really simple. Yeah, again, you saw the rule book. It's like 20 pages. I think that's about it. So yeah, no, it's a great little game to check out if you want to play with your friends or if you want to just play a nice apocalyptic zombie RPG.
Great. Yeah, the form factor and components are really intriguing in this.
Yep. And the fact it's just so compact. Like you can throw this in a backpack and you're good to go. Like
convention bag would be really good for that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All right, what is the last game that you have for us?
We have Gloomy Graves. So Gloomy Graves, hopefully I don't have too much glare in there. It's a game where you are a grave digger. So in this world, there is a massive fantasy battle going on with dragons and gnomes and fairies and all these kind of things. But of course, like all these battles, there's going to be casualties. And your job is to try and deal with all that.
Okay.
So this is kind of a
deal. Hide.
Yes, address. So you'll actually go through and you'll have a community graveyard, and then you also have a private crypt.
Okay.
And in this game, you're going to be laying down cards and trying to match up chains of creature types to cash in and get victory points.
Okay.
So the goal is, like, let's say if there's 10 or 12 different little dragon grave sites on the community board, and you have a couple, you can cash in and get victory points. You'll lay down cards. Each card has it's basically divided in half, so you'll have 2 different creature types on it. So one half will have like a little dragon, the other half will have
kind of like a domino-y kind of thing?
Very much like King Domino. So if you're familiar with King Domino, it has a lot of the same vibe and a lot of the same feel.
So King Domino, but like a way more dark, macabre.
Sure. Yeah. There's the theme is just kind of there for the most part. It does tie really nicely into it, but really all the colors and all the creature types are all color coded.
Sure.
So you can really just look at it as like a color matching game if you really.
So it's not going to give us like a deep introspective lesson in war profiteering or the true cost of violence or anything like that.
No, not so much. No, this is a game you'll be able to get through in about a half hour, 45 minutes or so.
Okay.
Something pretty simple. Like I said, you're pretty much just color matching. You will enjoy. There's a moderate to high spite meter on this one.
Oh, sweet.
Yes. Like I said, there's a community board that everyone will have to play to every single turn. So you'll play 1 card in the community, and you'll play 1 in your own private crypt. And you're trying to combine creature types to score. And you'll see people trying to build up like, oh, here's a whole bunch of dragons, and it has to be connected. So if you just lay a card in between, you just break that connection, and just, oh no, you ruin all those points for that person.
Sweet.
So you can kind of cut people off in this game really easily, but you also kind of want to work with them, because if both you are trying to kind of score high on a certain creature type, you're going to want to kind of both lay down cards next to each other and create that chain. But yeah, the interesting thing is for each creature type, you can only cash in once. So like dragons, you can only cash in once on dragons. So you want to make sure you press your luck as far as you can to try and get the most points out of it. Because once you get your victory points for dragons, you can't.
Once you've ridden a dragon, you can't do it again.
Yeah, there's no turning back.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what are the creatures in there? There's dragons.
Dragons, cyclopses, fairies, and I want to say unicorns. Yes. Yeah, and
goblins.
Goblins. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
But yeah, so you'll have these cards, and they'll have little grave sites on them. You'll lay them down. When you lay down in the community.
What kind of war is going to have fairies, unicorns, dragons, cyclopses, and goblins?
The coolest war.
All right.
Something off the cover of like an 80s metal album.
So you're saying this is the greatest war?
Yeah, the greatest war that's ever happened. Yeah, so yeah, it's a very interesting game where you're going to play as the Gravediggers, just trying to organize all these corpses from the corpse deck.
Okay.
As you lay out cards.
You're trying to organize all these corpses.
Yep.
Well. But the thing is what I love is like there's definitely a segment who's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
I am all in for organizing corpses.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very different idea.
King Domino? No. Yeah. Organizing corpses?
Yes.
All in.
Yeah. So yeah, if you like to play a much more macabre version of King Domino, this is a really nice version for you. Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun. Very simple once you get it rolling. And like I said, with the victory points, you're really trying to like press your luck to get as much out of it as you can.
So chat was asking about what if is there a unified dragon cyclops fairy monster?
And
I'm pretty sure that kind of talk is what led to this war to begin with.
There is a Gravedigger piece on there on one of the cards, so that will act as a wild. So there is sort of that option.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing these games out.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Thank you for kind of giving us the rundown on them, especially right now as I think a lot of releases are a little bit slowing down.
Yep.
And game stores, as we discussed, are going through some challenges.
Yep.
Anything else that you want to say before we let you go?
I mean, not a lot. I mean, I appreciate you having me. I'd love to come down and talk about games. I'm excited to check out Zombie World. That's going to be a lot of fun. I think I'm going to play that with my roommates while we're locked away. Villainous, of course, is great. Yeah, Mox Boarding House. Again, if you're in the Seattle or Bellevue area, we are open. So if you are looking to get some games and some books and stuff like that to keep you occupied, we'll be happy to help you out with that. And like you mentioned, you can kind of call ahead if you want to keep access to other people limited and you want to try to keep yourself safe. Which is completely understandable, especially given the circumstances.
Yeah, you should try to minimize as much as you can.
Yes.
But if you need to take a sanity trip out to pick something up to then bring it home,
yes,
you're not going to go to Mox and sit down and borrow a game from the library and lick all the cards and then play it for a few hours.
Yeah, the library is kind of on hiatus for the time being while we're dealing with the situation at hand. But yeah, no, we definitely have all sorts of other games that you can hang out with and check out and take home with you. So
great. Well, thanks again to Mox Boarding House for having you come out, letting you bring out the games,
sure, yeah.
Especially knowing everything that's going on now. And people should definitely check out go to your local game store's website or Facebook or Twitter. Find out what they are doing during the situation, because I know not every part of the country is on quite the same self-isolation priority that Seattle is. Some are higher, some are lower. But see what's happening at your local store. See the effect it's having on them. Find out what they're going to do during this time and figure out what you can do to help them get through this time. And I guarantee you they will appreciate it. But again, thank you for joining us. No. Thank you for everyone for watching. We will have game night tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific. The Mike Selinker is coming out to run and walk us through Lords of Vegas. I believe Emma and Javion will be playing on that as well. I think he has a guest that he's bringing too. And then on Monday night, we have the Brothers Murph, who are back from their trip to England and Ireland. I think that considering that they were traveling right when everything was happening, they are now quarantined in their house for like 2 weeks or so. Yeah. So I believe they will be doing a lot of streams on their own channel. They might be doing some stuff with us. So they are on Monday night at 6 p.m., so join them for a game. Wednesday at 9 a.m., they'll be painting minis again. And then Wednesday at 4 p.m., we'll have Fireside with Peter, where he'll be interviewing somebody about the history of D&D. And then 6:30 p.m. On Wednesday Pacific, we'll have Westgate Irregulars coming on, a group of authors playing D&D. And then Friday, we'll come back again with 11 a.m. For table takes. And then 12:30ish, 1:45, we will figure out some way to handle new release rundown if we have to go remote. And then we end up back on the same schedule again. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Remember to stay safe, stay home, watch our streams, and do something to keep yourself engaged with other people, call some friends, and just stay good, stay as healthy as you can, and help those around you.